What is one good way to regulate yourself or say to yourself when your partner pulls back or they're overwhelmed so that they have time to calm and then you can feel secure in the moment? I feel like I
Yeah.
get that question right.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to this question. So we get into this in both of our communities and in the catalyst that Chris talked about inside the community. But really, we have two options for nervous system responses when you're in an attachment bond and you start to get a bit activated, or your nervous system turns on, or what I would say your body responds. And it responds in a way that it feels like, oh, are we okay? Like, is everything all right? Something shifted, something's different. And there's only two ways. Either your body is going to give you extra or your body is going to give you less. And so either you'll get more heated. And like for me, my heart rate picks up, everything in me, I start to feel this urge inside my body like, I need to fix this. I need to make sure it's all okay. I got to catch him before this happens. The shutdown comes. And I start to feel like this urge inside of me that almost feels kind of fiery and hot. And I have lots of words and I want to ask a lot of questions. And all of my five senses are heightened. So I almost feel like Spider-Man, when he goes into his Spidey senses, and I'm like, the whole world, I feel better, I see better, and I turn into like Velociraptor mode. Now I got to go hunting and figure out what's going on with this pattern or whatever. Meanwhile, his nervous system is the direct opposite. Do you want to describe a little bit, like in that moment, do you resonate with what this person is saying about the overwhelm, needing calm, needing space? Like there's the other option.
Yeah, the option that I fall into 9 times out of 10 is that I have less. And so
Yeah.
I will start to feel, I will start to pull back and withdraw. Kind of like what I was saying with the question before this one. My natural tendency is like, I don't want to bother her, or I don't feel like that I'm good enough or worthy enough to share
Mm.
this. And so I start to pull back or withdraw away from that idea because I don't want to put more on her plate, or I don't want to pressure her, or I don't think that I have gathered the words that are accurate enough to depict what's going on with me. And so I don't say anything. And so, again, because of that, oftentimes Terry, who is pretty keen on picking up with things like that, it's like something's going on and I don't exactly know. And because my nervous system is different than hers, where she would probably raise the alarm and say, "Hey, we need to pay attention to this," I do the opposite. I'm like, "There's no alarm. We're all good. Let's keep our smiles going and move forward." But often that leads to the fact that I withdraw and don't share it with her. Therefore, she then, well, again, putting words in your mouth here, possibly, but she then thinks, do I not matter enough to Chris for him to share life with, or an issue with, or concerns with? So that's kind of where it goes for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing
Mm-hmm.
your experience too. So, what do we do? I'll say, I feel like I resonate with this question kind of. I wonder, I think maybe we might have a similar nervous system response and both have like, I'm going to assume that I'm going to speak from that perspective, and both maybe are in relationship with a partners who does get overwhelmed and needs some space. So the first thing I would say is anyone who needs some space, we don't chase after people who need space because they need space. They just do. And so if I were to put more pressure by asking questions or following after, which I've done all of these things and recently, like days ago, it doesn't go well, because what starts to happen is the very things that he's avoiding, he now has pressure to face without him wanting to be the one to do it. And how many of you want to be forced to face something that you're not ready to face? I don't.
No.
And so there's nothing that I can really do in that moment. So that urge to do doesn't need to be focused on him. That urge to do, I just need to sit with and pay attention to. Now, it does help me. I can't control it, but it helps me if he can say to me, "Hey, I just need a second. I love you. I'm going to calm down. I'll be right back." That helps me. But he doesn't always have the ability to say that. And so I don't expect like him to really be the one. My best case scenario on my very best day, it would look like taking a breath and saying to myself, it's okay. We have different ways right now that we need to feel better. Yes, I would much prefer if he chose to stay here and talk it out with me, but he literally can't. His brain's on fire. It would be like if someone clocked him in the head with a 2x4 and I asked him to do long division. That's not a good assessment on if he's great at math. Me trying to talk to him when he's dysregulated like this will not be an accurate assessment about how he feels about me.
Good point.
Because his nervous system has protected him. It throws kind of armor all around him. Kind of think about it like if a car like hits into something and an airbag comes out and then you can't see anything around you. He's in that place. If I'm like, what's the scenery? He's like, I don't know. I'm covered in stuff. I have no idea. I think I was in a wreck. So everybody's got to calm down a little bit if we're going to really be able to turn to each other. So here are some things I do. If I'm really mad, I do what's called a run and cry, where I put my sneakers on and I go out and I actually physically move my body. That's just personal to me. It works for me sometimes to just move the emotion through my body. If I sit in the house, sometimes like honestly, it's too tempting if he's here. It's so tempting. I think, I bet I can talk him into it. I bet if I just said the right thing or did the right thing, I bet this question, it's going to be the one he's going to be like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it like that. I love you more than anything. All fights are gone and forgiven. It's not going to happen. It's not really going to happen. It doesn't matter how kind you are or whatever. You just have to give space and honestly give space. Not like, I will give you 10 minutes and I will wait outside the door and slip notes under. Ask me how that doesn't work. I've probably done all of the things. So a run, like matching it if I'm angry, reaching out to a safe person without disclosing details or complaining about my partner. What really helps me is to say, hey, I'm stuck. I really want to throw his body in the yard. I'm not going to do it, but like I feel violently angry, or I feel so misunderstood, but to talk about myself and to get support. It helps me to remind myself that we love each other and that I have faith in us, that I believe that we're going to get back to a good place. Because part of my panic is, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're good or not because I don't feel good right now. It feels like truth. But I don't want to act from this place. I want to feel my feelings and then give myself permission to be sad that we're not together right now, to be sad about the misunderstanding, to be frustrated, to be angry, to be hurt, to be lonely. All of that's okay. I journal as well, and I can write my thoughts down. And sometimes that can be very regulating. Any kind of somatic practices, a warm shower, eating a snack, drinking some water, go on a drive, go shopping. I love to read. And so I'll pick up a book, not a self-help or couples therapy book. So I used to do that and also just be like, you need to read this passage.
I mean, just over in the corner with a psychology book, like, oh, I'm getting the hint. Yeah. Fine.
Or sending Instagram posts like, you need to read this about what you did. None of that is helpful. As much as I want to do that, what it's doing is I'm trying to regulate myself. Mm-hmm. And by regulate, I just mean tend to. I have to tend to like what Mary Oliver would say is like the warm animal of my body. I'm scared. It's no different than my dog when he hears people raise voices and he kind of shrinks in and tucks his tail. It's like he needs to feel like it's okay again if he's then going to like learn a new trick or go on a walk or be okay. So that's a lot. Let me see if I can bring it back down to bullet points. How would I sort of say that you can tend to yourself in a moment of need? First, I would just acknowledge it's extremely painful when your partner shuts you out. I'm so sorry. It hurts. And your partner's not going to know how it feels because it's not their pain. They will actually never fully understand what it's like to have your nervous system. I had a student one time, they had a master's degree. We were in a therapy training, say that she communicated to her partner who has that same thing, that it's like I have a sunburn and you don't. And we're both going to take a hot shower in the same temperature of water. You will not be able to feel how it burns me, nor really even believe or understand that it actually hurts me like that. So I can't demand that you understand me for it to be valid. I have to know I'm burning and I have to take care of myself in that moment. So I want to acknowledge the pain of that for you first. And then the second thing I would say is, what do you need? That does not include your partner yet. Trusting that you will be able to have that opportunity. But until then, what are you going to do in the space between disconnection and reconnection that doesn't cost you? Because if I continue to push anyway, what I typically feel in the back end is I'm mad at myself. I knew better. I did it anyway. And now I've been rejected in another way that didn't have to kind of happen. And so I have a protective part of me to other people that have my nervous system too, to say, I want to honor you in that. And also say, please, like, I don't want you to end up putting something out there that's going to end up not landing. And then you're going to get the message you don't matter. And that's not true. Again, it wouldn't be a right assessment of your relationship, even though it is part of it. And then the third thing I would say is when it's time to reconnect, you might feel mad that your partner needed to take space. It's not at you or away from you, but it will feel like that. So let me say to you, you get to say to yourself, they're doing what they're doing for them, not in spite of me, just like you're doing what you're doing for yourself, right? That has to happen, because as much as we have a bond, we're still two individual people with individual nervous systems who need this bond. And that's how it is. And all of us in relationship have our own kind of unique way that we do that. So tracking my own pattern and knowing what I need and what is helpful for me has been extraordinarily helpful in relationship. What I do want to do though, with a couple of minutes that we have left here, is to kind of check with you about maybe from your perspective, what it's like as the partner who kind of moves away. What have you seen maybe too that could be really supportive? And by the way, again, excellent question.
Yeah, very
really
good.
Great question.
Very good question. Again, as the withdrawer, I am oftentimes trying to avoid these conversations because they feel like they're too much pressure, or I don't quite yet have an answer. And so I don't want to talk about it yet if I don't feel like that I can articulate what's going on. So I think that for me, what has been helpful is to know that I will be coming to Terry to talk to her about what is going on. And so while she goes away and does a run and cry or spends time doing those types of things, what I'm doing is trying to really articulate in my own head or in my journal or writing it down what is actually going on for me. And so for me, what I try to do is I try to check in with my emotions first. So then from there, it kind of helps to tell the story. It's like, okay, am I feeling hurt? No, I'm not hurt. Am I feeling angry? No, that's not it. Certainly not happy. No, I'm sad. Oh, I'm sad. Why am I sad? I think I'm sad because I feel like we don't get to spend enough time together. Okay, so I'm sad that I don't have as much of Terry as I once did. And okay, so that's it. Okay, I'm sad. All right. So now when I come back together and Terry's like, have you figured anything out? I'm like, babe, I just want to let you know I did spend some time thinking over things, and I realized I'm sad because I miss you. I miss you. We used to spend this certain amount of time together, or we used to do this thing, and we don't get to do that anymore. And I'm just mourning the loss of what we used to be able to do. And so from there, again, as we talk about in the Come Together Catalyst, I think it's on day one or day two of the Catalyst, about how to frame what's going on so we don't create an argument out of it. So I wouldn't say something like, you know what, when you decided to take that job, then that meant all of my dreams went out the window. Going to put her probably in a defensive place, I would imagine. But if I was able to say, you know what, I'm sad because I don't get to spend the time with you that I want to, that we used to have, then I'm kind of like serving something up on a platter for her to go like, well, I don't want you to be sad. What can we do about that? Okay, this is a new reality that we have, but can we find a way to connect in some other way? Or this is only for a season, or, you know, whatever the answers may be. But then it creates a dialogue that we can go back and forth with. So then the withdrawer doesn't feel so overwhelmed to take care of it in the moment, or it's a failure. And then the pursuer, hopefully that with a little bit of practice with this, there could be a routine or enough repetition between each other to where the pursuer knows, okay, my lovely withdrawer needs some time, but I do know that we're going to come back to this conversation later and that we can dive in. So for the pursuer, I may not be getting the answers that I want right now in the moment, but I do feel some comfort in the fact that they are going to go and take some time and think about it so we can dive into it. That feel
yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
You know, it brings to mind this quote I think about all the time by Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning and survived, you know, concentration camp and talked very much about bonding, and logotherapy was his thing. Anyway, there's this quote that he says that I think about a lot, specifically around this and around all communication. and responsiveness. He
I'm
says
excited.
between stimulus and response, there's a space.
Mm.
In that space is your power to choose. And so, what we want to do is expand the space. So, I have this stimulus. The stimulus would be he needs space from me to go calm down and everything. And immediately, my knee jerk response that I want to do is be protesting that. No, 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 no. Wait, stay. We can, because it would make me feel better. But at what cost? It makes him feel worse. I don't want to do that. So, what do I do in the space before response? The space is where I can turn towards myself with softness, to soothe myself, to calm myself, to let myself know that I matter, to remind myself that we are bonded. That tether that I have doesn't go anywhere just because we're distressed. It's like if I was in a ship and there was a storm happening all around, I might need to hang on to something and remind myself ships are safe. Or when I'm in a plane and we hit turbulence, planes are safe. This is very uncomfortable. And yes, I want the turbulence to be over, but there's nothing I can really do for it to sort out. That's on the pilot. And I think of that a lot, like in our relationship, like this is turbulence. You know, Actually, the bond is doing what it's supposed to do. It's able to stand the test of time if I can calm myself down a little and say, this is typical.
Mm.
There is no relationship that has a real bond without getting stuck sometimes because we're still two individuals. Our Venn diagram isn't a circle. There's some overlap, but there's a lot of us that's different. And we're always growing and changing over time. So part of it that helps me too is to expect this, that there are
Ooh,
times where Chris is going to
that's
need
good.
to go and process.
That's good.
What am I going to do in that space and not let it define who I am or who he is or who we are? And to know sometimes it will anyway. And when it does, that's an invitation. It's an invitation for more love and compassion and kindness. It's an invitation for us to talk more.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. One of the things that I wanted to say as we wrap up here is that hopefully you are in a relationship that's going to last a really long time. And so for Terry and I, we've been married now 24 years, been together longer than that, and we've known each other since we were in preschool.
Yeah.
And yet, every day is a new adventure for us, a new challenge for us to utilize these same things. Like we're talking as if we know it and we have it memorized, and to a large part we do. But in our own relationships, often that all goes out the window because I want what I want right now, and I need you to give it to me, or I feel like there's a deficit, and what's going on? And so sometimes with that urgency of feeling like we're out of the loop or we don't know what's happening, we scrape and claw to find those answers. And so I just want to remind you that like with the people that ask these questions today, or even with ourselves, like it's a learning process. Yeah. So if you try and it doesn't quite go the way that we talked about, or it doesn't quite go the way that you want it to, use that as a learning lesson to try again the next time. And hopefully that batting average will improve the more reps that you take at this thing we call relationships.